Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPAutos.com, your libertarian car guy, coming at you from my Nissan pickup and not from the 2020 Kia Soul that I'll be reviewing shortly because I need to pick up some big and bulky items down at Lowe's, and that's why I'm driving my truck instead of the Kia, which I'll report about later. And by the way, have a look at my Mr. T air freshener. Hey fool! He helps keep my truck smelling fine. I thought you'd appreciate that. Alright, on a more serious note, I wanted to talk today a little bit about the skullduggery that occurred way back on the high holy day of 9/11, when the enemies of freedom struck America. And there's one particular aspect of it that I would like to address because I was there. I grew up in the DC area, so I'm very familiar with the Pentagon in particular and surrounding countryside. And I was still living up in the suburbs of Northern Virginia, not far from downtown DC, on that very fateful September day. And one thing that has constantly bothered me ever since that day is that there isn't, so far as I have been able to determine, a single still picture or video image of the, I put it in quotes, 757 commercial aircraft that supposedly flew into the Pentagon. And the reason that I find this, I find it unbelievable, literally in the meaning of that term, unbelievable. Having grown up in the DC area, I know that there are probably scores, if not hundreds, of security cameras in the general vicinity, let's say a 2 or 3 mile orbit of the Pentagon. And on a nice, warm, sunny fall day, as that day was, there would have been thousands of tourists walking around downtown and in the vicinity and near the Pentagon. Many of them would have had cameras, and they would have had video recorders. And even more than that, by that time of the Pentagon attack, they would have known that 2 airplanes already flew into the World Trade Center Twin Towers. So everybody would have been on high alert, so to speak, and would have been looking up in the sky and would have heard a twin-engined heavy jet coming in low, flying erratically, and surely at least one person, would have taken a picture of it. We've got multiple videos and still pictures of the 2 airplanes flying into the Twin Towers. You know, pretty incontrovertible evidence that indeed planes did fly into the Twin Towers. I've heard the theory that they were holographic projections, and I don't know, that's out of my wheelhouse. What I do know is I personally have seen those videos, and it seems pretty probable that those were in fact airplanes that flew into the buildings, but I'm not going to argue about it. I'm just going to point out that there were probably dozens of videos and pictures taken of those airplanes, and yet not a single picture of the airplane that supposedly flew into the Pentagon. And I find that extraordinarily odd and troubling, and I don't buy it. Commercial aircraft, they do fly fast. They don't fly at hypersonic speeds. And I mention that because we have this one still image or quick video shot of a blur of something whizzing by at a ludicrous speed and almost instantaneously colliding with the Pentagon. You can't tell anything about what it is. Airplanes don't fly that fast. However, missiles do. And then we come to the second thing that has long troubled me, and it's this. The local news coverage, not national, but the local affiliates, when the whatever it was flew into the Pentagon, were there on scene and taking pictures of the scene. And what I saw, and I saw this with my own eyes on that day, was a relatively small hole that seemed to me to be too small for the diameter of a wide-body jet. But what was completely improbable to me was that there was no damage to the windows on either side of that hole. Now, again, I saw this myself. Nor was there any damage above the hole, where if it had been an airplane, a vertical stabilizer would have gone through the building. And there was no sign of damage to the wall on either side of the hole from a pair of very large jet engines that would have been hanging underneath the wings of a 757, not to mention the damage done by the wings. It was as though something that was round without any wings and without any engine hanging externally punctured through that wall. So I don't know. I can't say what happened. I just find it improbable, unlikely, and I do not believe that that a 757 flew into the Pentagon based on the evidence of my own eyes and based on the fact that there is no evidence of an airplane having flown into the Pentagon. I think anybody who has a logical and rational mind and who is a reasonable person would agree with me that the absence of any pictures or video of an airplane coming in to the Pentagon would have had at least, call it, what, 15 to 30 seconds notice minimally of that plane coming in. It didn't teleport 500 yards away from the building and just, you know, pile into it. It would have had to descend. It would have had to corkscrew. It would have had to come down. People would have seen it. There would have been pictures taken by somebody. So not one picture taken. Highly, highly suspicious to me. I won't even get into the stuff that happened in New York, which I also find improbable. I just wanted to relate what I personally know about because I was personally in that area on that day, and which has bothered me for all these years ever since. I doubt that we'll ever get to the bottom of it, but I think that what we were told is a lie. I think it's not what actually happened, and I think that finding out what did in fact happen is crucially important, even now, almost 20 years later, perhaps even more so. So that's all I've got today. It's not really a car rant, but it was just something that I wanted to get off my chest. And if there's anyone out there who can correct me about this and who can provide images, I would be very grateful. Excuse me. Anyway, more up at epautos.com. Thanks for viewing, and we'll catch up with you again soon.